Chat, I'm gonna ask y'all the question as we do at the start of each one of these videos. I'm gonna ask y'all, do you think Fortnite Blitz should be a permanent mode? I put a poll out on YouTube. I had a bunch of people comment on that. I put out a post on Twitter today, which is kind of where this whole thing started. But I want to ask y'all first while we get into this. Let's see. Davel saying do it. Damien saying do it. Shekti saying no. Koala saying no. Well, if you look at the player count, it speaks for itself. That's the issue. That argument goes both ways, not just one way. That's why it doesn't necessarily speak for itself, right? You can see how split chat is right now. I should put up a poll. You know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to start a poll in the chat. Slide down and like your mom, chat. Go ahead. I'm just curious to see how split the community is on this because I understand both sides. Before I get into all the crazy specifics to my position, I will just give my general take, which is I'm leaning towards no. However, I could potentially be swayed in the other way if a convincing argument was given, but I'm really leaning towards no. And for a few reasons, but like I said, we'll get to that a little bit later. I want to keep seeing what you guys are saying right now. Seasons we've experienced should be redone with mini maps like reload, but more frequently. I agree with that too. I would play the mode if it was augments instead of boons and I could use what I wanted. Well, Soda can't remember. The thing about that is even with augments, you don't get what you want. I also think augments would slow the pace of the game down. Just getting a random boon thrown at you, I think works a little bit better than having to cycle through and hope that you get the augment that you want. I think augments are better for a BR format, but I do agree with you that augments are a W and they should be thrown back into Fortnite. I do like augments, but I think boons were a nice alternative too. I don't hate boons, but it's for mobile. It was made with mobile in mind, which I think is a huge part of this conversation. It was definitely made with mobile in mind. Curious about where the majority of the players are coming from because that we don't know. We can look at player counts as much as we want, but we don't know where the players are coming from. Are they a majority Xbox or PC or PlayStation? But I am willing to bet that the majority of these players would be on mobile. This was designed for mobile. Why should Blitz not be a permanent mode, but Reload be a permanent mode now? Because Reload was first. I would say that, and I think that Blitz is more similar to Reload than Reload is to BR, I would argue, probably. But honestly, that's not necessarily true, and maybe that's not really the angle I need to tackle that from. I have an answer for that, but it's a bit complex. I think there's more that they can do with Reload. I think there's more, in a way, more sticking power or staying power when it comes to Reload. But like I said, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. Keeping Blitz would eventually a downfall for Epic because of the player retention eventually being low, like how all things go. So keeping Blitz as an LTM would be better. Gzilla based take. There's so much potential for collabs and holiday themed maps they could bring back as part of the Winterfest or Fortnitemares. And if it is a permanent thing, it'll lose its hype just like OG. Here's the thing. That is half true, but like, did Reload lose its hype? Not really. The thing I like about Reload is that like it keeps reinventing itself and it holds a strong player base. I think for what Reload is, it's really good. And I like what Blitz is too. I think for people in my camp who are saying that Blitz should not be a permanent mode, I think people need to understand that like we're not saying that because we hate Blitz. Blitz is fun. And Blitz is holding high player numbers. We're looking at the long-term effects of Blitz being there. When you ask the question, well, why can Reload be there and not Blitz? Because Reload was first to market. Reload has been here for a year. Reload has been able to integrate itself into the game very well without splitting the player base too much. You got to think, before we even had a permanent OG mode, it was like main BR, but then you had permanent OG, in which I was against permanent OG being a thing. And now you want to add permanent OG and the modes that has underneath it, and now you want to add Blitz on top. It's becoming a bit much. And that's really where my concerns lie. I don't think that removing Reload is not the option. All these new add-ons that we're getting, like I get it. I don't mind Epic experimenting with stuff, but I also understand that like there's another difference between Reload and Blitz. I feel like Blitz is a bit more gimmicky, which isn't always a bad thing, but I do feel like Blitz is a bit more gimmicky than Reload is. Reload, to me, feels like it has more substance. There's a lot more skill involved with Reload. Blitz is just absolute pure chaos, and I love it for what it is. But the modes, it's like it's bite-sized, like mini matches. It doesn't have the same level of depth as like a Reload does. But it doesn't mean that it's not a good mode. But let's backtrack a little bit. I've seen what you guys have been saying in the comment section, and I get where you're coming from. I want to actually kind of point this back to Twitter for a moment because Hypex tweeted out today that Blitz has been extended by 4 more weeks. We are getting the anime stuff, Dragon Ball Jujutsu Kaisen, and they're also going to throw Mortal Kombat in. That's going to be dope because I want to use the Hollow Purple and clap everybody's cheeks again, because the Hollow Purple is one of the best items we added to Fortnite, right behind the Plasma Cannon. Now, this is what I had to say on Twitter. I really like Blitz. I do want to have a lasting presence in Fortnite, but I don't think permanent is the right move. We're splitting up players way too much. I say bring it back for 2 weeks every month and go insane with updates to keep the mode fresh and exciting. But right now, I think it's competing with too many other modes to be here forever. If I'm being completely selfish as well as completely honest, right? Part of the reason why I want to stay away from Blitz being permanent is because I think it's siphoning too many people from reload, and I think that will change over time. I think people will naturally go back to reload and all that because Blitz is the new thing. But also, like I said, because of the nature of what Blitz is, because it is bite-sized rounds, I think it's better if that mode becomes the new home for LTMs. If you really think about it, that's kind of what it's designed to be anyway. Like, we've had talks this year about the nature of LTMs, old LTMs coming back. Now that when you bring old LTMs back into modern Fortnite, they just kind of suck a lot of the time because the game has changed so much. I think it would be better if Epic took Blitz and put the old LTMs inside of Blitz mode. Integrate as many of those things in as they can, as well as collaborations. Collaborations are a great place for Blitz to be. Like, just because Blitz can't be around all the time doesn't mean that it can't have a frequent presence inside of Fortnite. Bringing it back every couple of weeks, I think would be really fun and really exciting. I like looking forward to stuff. It's not always good to have everything all at once. Once again, I'm going to give this quote again. I don't know. I know I've said it on stream a couple times this week, but I don't know if I've said it in any of the videos that we've recorded so far, but this is an important thing. You can have everything you want. You just can't have it all at the same time. People can kind of stop acting like the player base being split up is not a big deal. You want BR to have healthy player numbers. If OG is going to be permanent, you want OG to have healthy player numbers. And you're going to want Reload to have healthy player numbers too. If you don't want to complain about bots forever, you got to give somewhere. Fortnite only has a limited number of people that it can tap into at this point in time. There's not infinite people, infinite modes. We can't just keep adding mode after mode after mode. Because the other thing you got to think about is this. You got Blitz as a permanent mode, all the different iterations of Reload, all the different iterations of OG, and main chapter 6. We're just looking at BR. We're not talking about all the Metaverse stuff because I saw people on Twitter talking about the Metaverse and everything. Technically, they do take people away from BR, but not to the same degree as the other BR-based modes, obviously, because they're going for the same market of people. The hardcore Fortnite Festival fan is not necessarily going to be your hardcore BR player. They're two different markets of people. Moving on. If all these BR-based modes are going to be here all the time, right? Anytime Epic wants to experiment and add a new mode in, now that mode is going to further split the collective player base. You're going to further be splitting attention between so many different people. And once again, if we want to stop complaining about bots, we want the bot problem to be solved, you can't add modes on forever. And I know that Epic will have infinite modes, but that's the reason why LTMs existed. LTMs were cool because they were limited time. Blitz, I think, should be limited time. Just because a bunch of people are playing it right now does not mean that just as many people are going to be invested 6 months from now. I think the people that are playing Blitz are still going to want to play Battle Royale, and they're still going to want to play Reload, but I think their attention is just invested in Blitz right now. Where I would fall back on everything that I'm saying right now is if somebody could prove to me that Blitz attracted an entire new player base that was not previously playing Fortnite, if that was the case, if we've got like a bunch of new people that have come onto the game through mobile that are only playing Blitz, then I'd be like, okay, well then keep it, because we're not splitting the player base. We're actually creating an experience that's driving more people to the platform. But I would be willing to bet that that's not the case. And if it's not, we do need to be cautious and be thinking about like, okay, how much do we want to split everybody? The other thing too is this, and this is something the Fortnite community is just not a fan of, but I like the idea of having stuff to look forward to. I like the idea of certain things being special. That's why like Fortnite Mares and Winterfest, those things were fun because we only get them once a year. When it comes to an LTM like this, I'm not saying that it should be a once a year kind of a thing, but I think that people will get burnt out with it over time. It'll always hold a stable player base. I honestly think it'll probably hold a more stable player base than something like OG. And if I'm being real, I would prefer OG to be taken out before Blitz. If they were to remove something that was BR based, if we had to stick a gun to my head, choose something, take OG out. All iterations of OG. The reason for that is because Blitz is something new. It's a better representation of where Fortnite is now. It's something we haven't experienced, you haven't played before. I don't think there's anything wrong with OG necessarily, like as a concept, but it's just another thing that splits the player base even further, splits Epic's time and attention further. But on that point too, maybe it would be more manageable if it came back once every 2 weeks or once a month, however you want to phrase it, and they just pack that sucker with updates. Every 3 days you get a new update for 2 weeks, and then it's gone. for another month. And then they bring it back for 2 weeks. And then it's gone for another month. And then they can cite all the collabs and stuff that they have planned. They throw it in there so it gives you something exciting to look forward to. That's just me and my philosophy, but I understand that there are going to be people that disagree with that. Let's look at what y'all are saying. This could exist to test collabs, as with Squid Game. Some don't like reload for collabs. I don't hate the idea of reload in collabs, but I prefer reload without it. Reload doesn't really need it. Blitz seems like it's a mode that could facilitate collabs even better than reload. But I think what they did with the Squid Games map was really cool from the perspective of a zero builds player. Keep this in mind. I didn't know this until somebody pointed out to me today on Twitter on my post. I think the dude's name was Feber, but he was talking about how in builds the new map is absolutely broken. Like there's so many areas on the map where you can't build, and I was not aware of that. This is what I always talk about. Like people that play different modes have different experiences. I'm not gonna know that. I'm thinking the new map is fire because I'm just running around here in zero builds having the time of my life. But there for builds players, it's atrocious for y'all. And that's an L. The map is an L for builds. But remember, I think it's important to understand, like when I'm talking about a lot of stuff, my experience is going to be primarily from zero builds. Not that I don't play builds from time to time, but Blitz should have this feature where every time it returns or gets an update, it should have a different or varied map to keep it fresh in a way, and have very loot pool each time, and to be an LTM. Yeah, so if every couple of weeks they bring back a new map, basically they could take a section of the reload map, recreate it on there, and then that would be what we play on in Blitz. Like for example, yo, can you imagine a Blitz map that was just one giant city? Like imagine they combine like Tilted and Mega City and like a bunch of like other like industrial POIs like all together as like one big map. That would be fun to play on for Blitz. I've actually always wanted that. I've always wanted like a Tilted 2.0, like a really big city map to play on. But I think Blitz would be perfect for just an all city based island. I would love that. The usage of medallions and the variety of weapons are amazing. However, reload got the map changing and more weapons as well as extra lives to keep on going. That's the thing I like about reload is, to me, reload just feels so much more different than BR, really, even just because of that extra life factor. With Blitz, I don't have that. Blitz, if I die, I'm dead. It's a different level of intensity with reload. People say that reload's not intense because you can just keep coming back. That's absolutely not true. Die once and lose your loadout, your goated loadout in reload, and tell me that it's not hard to come back. Blitz is cool because it makes use of the medallions. I also like the mechanic where you get a random weapon, some random exotic or mythic weapon added to your loot pool because you're getting kills and leveling up. It's like they took the superhero rank idea and flipped it on its head a little bit. So you're combining that with the medallions, and that's what makes Blitz stand out and what really makes Blitz super unique. That's the thing. I'm not trying to crap on Blitz because I'm a fan of the mode. I love it. The matches are so short. They're so bite-sized. It doesn't allow for like the same level of depth as like a reload. And it doesn't allow you to like create that natural story that you get from like reload and BR. Like in reload, you can kill the same person like 2 or 3 times. If you eliminate them on that 3rd time, it's so satisfying. It's like, bro, someone's killed you twice, you come back and you actually wipe out their team. It's like, bro, that was a team that had been crapping on us the whole game. We got them out finally. You don't get those kind of stories from Blitz, but Blitz tells a more compact story. BR is like a podcast. Reload is like a 10-minute video. And then Blitz is TikTok. That's it. That's how it works. I've been threatening to look at like what people have been saying in my comment section, but I have not gotten there yet. So on here, on the poll that I made, 77% of people said to make Blitz permanent, and the other 23% said to take it out. The majority of people want Blitz to stay forever. And look, I get it because the mode is fire. Bollocks3150 said, I like the mode, but I think having it cycle in and out would maybe make it more exciting, especially if the time between the mode being out, they can work on putting more effort into specific POIs made for specific weeks, or even potentially making new items for a weekly theme. It would also just make the mode feel more special when it's around. That's what I think the beauty of it would be, really, is Epic would have more time to work on the mode, because just as fast-paced as the game mode of Blitz is, the updates are also pretty fast-paced too. One of the other issues I have is, okay, so we want Epic to maintain super fast, meaningful, consistent updates year-round, 2 to 3 updates a week like it has been, different collabs, different loot pools and weapons, on top of doing a reload, on top of the one update that OG gets every 2 months, and on top of doing main BR. That's a lot. I think Blitz would benefit from having a month break in between Blitz sessions. 1 month off, 2 weeks on. Epic added for another month of the mode. We'll see what they want to do with it. But they probably already had that content planned, because remember when the mode was first leaked anyway, the leakers thought that we were going to be getting Dragon Ball stuff in the first place. Epic probably already had about 2 months worth of content for Blitz planned. But what they said was, okay, if the mode doesn't hold a strong player base, we will have it out for the month and that'll be it, right? So we had the July 17th end date originally, and I was like, oh, people like this. Okay, well, hey, the next month's worth of updates, let's just roll those out and we'll be good. I like Blitz as a game mode, but I think keeping it as a mode would suck. It would be yet another reason to quit BR because of how chaotic it is. At least we have Reload to balance things out, and I don't want BR to be forgotten. I also think Reload is just it's better for the format of bringing in weapons from Fortnite's past. There's a thing that I don't like about Blitz, which it's not the mode's fault, it's just the nature of what the mode is, but Blitz doesn't really give you the ability to truly like get used to a weapon. Like the matches are 5 minutes each. Every time I load into a game, I'm getting basically a brand new loadout. And yeah, over the course of like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours of gameplay, you will come across certain guns over and over again. But it's not like Reload where like they bring a weapon from Fortnite's past in, like the Hammer AR or the Red Dot AR. They bring that gun in and like I'm able to really get used to it. I'm really able to fall in love with that weapon all over again. I'm really able to get used to a specific consistent meta, but it's still giving me something fresh and different from main BR because we're using all the different elements of Fortnite's past into one cohesive mode. I like that. And I think Reload is just better for that because the length of the rounds are longer. You play for longer periods of time. Qualis said, I personally think it might be better to keep Blitz as an LTM that comes back every once in a while, especially after being such a success, because I think if you take it out, people will start to miss it. And then the hype for it coming back again would be bigger. And also it being permanent just takes away from all the other modes. And if they keep coming with new modes like this and making them permanent, it will keep splitting the player base further and further. So that's why I think Blitz and maybe some other modes, like maybe future modes similar to Blitz, would just be better as LTMs. Yeah, that's pretty much the consensus for what we've all been talking about so far. I feel like the majority of the people that are commenting are like, the vast majority of people on the poll are saying, nah, make Blitz permanent. But then maybe that's because the people that are not wanting the mode to be permanent, they are actually thinking through their position. I'm neutral on this. I've only had fun throughout the first 3 weeks, but haven't played since halfway through the third event. I did hear Mega City is coming to Blitz, though. That's a fair and balanced take. I get that. Blitz is very popular after about 4 weeks of being released, and I also enjoy the constant changing of the loot pool with collab items and Fortnite original weapons, so I would say keep it. And if it stays this popular, maybe they could try a build mode to entice players who would rather play Fortnite with build mode. Listen to me, okay? Blitz fans, even if the mode does not stay permanently, don't worry. I have something for y'all, okay? Specifically, if you're looking for a builds version of Blitz, I am currently working on that. Or my boy Stupefied, my map designer, is currently working on a builds version of Blitz right now. We should be playtesting it this Friday. This recording is going to go out on Saturday. I'll leave the island code in the pinned comment of this video because I want people to have a builds Blitz experience. We have it already built, and I think you guys are going to absolutely love it. It's based upon an old gameplay loop that we had called Crack Coliseum. It's like box fights and zone wars in one game, but we're adding the Blitz mechanics on top of that. So I'm very excited to unveil that. That'll be coming out this Friday. We'll also have a zero builds version as well, which I think a lot of people are going to love too. So stay tuned for that. Even if Blitz doesn't stay permanent, your boys got you, okay? And our map also does rotate out. I think we're currently on our 4th iteration of our map for this island right now. So keep that in mind. Oh, and use code Clark because that's what supports all my map designers as well as my editors, okay? That's how I'm paying for all these maps to get made for you guys, so appreciate y'all. The Syrian Blitz Royale has managed to keep a good concurrent player count. At its first, it was 300,000. Then it went down to 100,000, which a lot of people will think is bad, but the same thing happened to Reload, and Reload doesn't have as many players as it once did. Well, once again, why is that? That's because they went over to Blitz. Does that mean they should remove it? No, because that would be stupid. It is still popular and loved by many, so I think it speaks for itself that people love Blitz. Look at Marvel Rivals. It had very large player counts when it went down. Now people think the game is bad. No, it's not. The hype phase just went down. It's natural. No matter what you do, there's nothing you can do about it. Remember, there's other modes like Festival, Rocket Racing, and Ballistic. Those have little player counts and they somehow still exist. And Kemo is bringing up some fair points here, right? Here's the issue with that, though. We talk about the other Metaverse modes, Rocket Racing, Lego, and Festival. We'll throw Ballistic in there too, right? The difference with those modes is that they're still in competition with BR because people can only play one game at a time, right? That's like the baseline understanding. But in terms of direct competition, people that are going to primarily play Lego, that are excited about Lego, are not necessarily BR players. And I think that goes double for Festival. Festival is for the hardcore Guitar Hero crowd, and Harmonix is doing a great job of managing that game. Of course, there's the controversy with the item shop and the cosmetics, that, you know, the songs. I don't think that was the best move on Epic's part. I think they should have more of the music available, but it is what it is. The point that I'm trying to make here is that it's difficult to look at like, oh, we have Festival that only has 10,000 players, so why can't Blitz stay? Because Blitz is a BR-based mode. It's literally siphoning people from every other BR-based mode that exists. We cannot continue to have BR-based modes. Can y'all imagine 5 years from now, Epic's got like 60 different BR-based modes because everyone loves them and everybody wants them to be permanent and everybody wants them there all the time. Like, the question that we need to be asking ourselves is, when is the cutoff point? When is enough enough? When is too much too much? Because we can't keep adding everything on permanently forever. It's like saying like, oh, an LTM should be permanent. Well, the Floor is Lava was able to hold, you know, even up to 50,000 players on the most unpopular days. Why not keep the Floor is Lava? Because it's an LTM. Because we don't want to continue to split the player base. That's the advantage of it being an LTM. And I honestly think, once again, Blitz would benefit from it not being permanent. I think the mode will be better if you don't make it stay 100% of the time. Reload is a different monster. I think Reload still hits a lot of that Blitz itch. Reload had the advantage of being first to market. If you had to flip these around, I probably would have been saying the same thing about Reload. Even though I would have preferred Reload more, I would have been like, damn, make Reload come back every couple of weeks. Or I might have said, get Blitz the hell out of here. I think Reload is still the superior mode. Doesn't mean that Blitz is bad. I know that's personal preference, but I digress. Make it permanent, turn it into the bot mode, keep all the gimmicky garbage over there, turn it into the Little Timmy playground. The rest of the modes get full human matches with no overpowered gimmicks. Everyone wins. I'm weak. I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to play Blitz with just bots either. I want real people in Blitz, but that's just me. Don't like the mode at all. Heavily dependent on RNG. It's a zero build experience that's horrible for zero build. They took the worst parts of Venture that have no cover. That's kind of true, I'm not gonna lie. Although, well, Pleasant is cool. Made it so that if you luckily find mobility, you have an insane advantage over everyone else. It's extremely unpolished and boring. That's, once again, personal preference. I would disagree. I don't think it's unpolished or boring, but when I saw that it would change themes every week, I thought that meant everything would change, but all they do is add in a few items. It's lazy and boring. Epic Games just can't just stop with the slop, can they, chat? Just these boring-ass, lazy-ass modes that don't add anything. They only just change the loot pool every few days and add in mechanics that hadn't been used in over a year, and we're mixing and matching different metas together, and, you know, just items from different eras of Fortnite, you know, and collab items. But they didn't put enough thought into it. It's just ass, honestly. Like, what? They should just quit. Fortnite's gonna die. Those are the majority of the comments, man. I'm seeing it. I'm getting it. I'm hearing people, but still not swayed on the permanent mode thing yet. You know what I mean? Let's compare a few LTMs 50v50 to the Getaway and Floor is Lava versus Blitz mode players in Blitz. You're missing the point. The LTMs don't have to perform as well as Blitz for the argument to remain the same, right? As a matter of fact, the fact that Blitz is doing better, we should probably back off on this one a little bit. It's gonna siphon too many players from the other modes. Maybe it's just too good. Things are different now because there's just so much stuff. If we didn't have OG, I would not be saying this. There are just so many things inside of Fortnite now. And everyone's like, oh, well, but I love this thing and this thing's my favorite. It's just, I get it. It's too much. I think we do need to prioritize the things that were first to market and the things that are already established. Like, taking out OG at this point doesn't really make sense. It would be a stupid idea to get rid of Reload. It doesn't even make sense to get rid of Reload. Blitz, the option is not to get rid of it permanently, but I think that the mode, it's siphoning so many players. Like I said, we have to think of the bigger picture. Do we want more bots? And also, what about when Fortnite wants to add other modes in the future? Like I said, we want to have all these modes, all the modes that exist right now, we want to have all these modes in. Plus, we want Epic to continue to give us new LTMs, right? So now we got to facilitate player counts for all of that. It's too much. There is a breaking point. That's the point that we're getting across here. When is enough enough? When is too much too much? And I think we're getting really close to that point. You have to leave room for new experiences to come in. You can't just think about like, oh, this experience, this new experience, it's only been out for a month, is doing very well, therefore it should stay. It's not just about that. I get what you're saying, but why wouldn't you want to keep a successful thing? Because keeping a successful thing is hurting everything else. That's why. What I'm saying is, if you add this as another permanent mode, right? And then let's say next year Epic wants to add another new mode, or another 2 or 3 new modes, right? And then you want to have LTMs on top of that. It's too much. Reload has the advantage of being here first. Because Reload and BR were like kind of the first 2 big like permanent modes, like 2 BR-based permanent modes, these 2 things are not hurting each other enough to siphon too many players off of the other. Like there was balance when it was just main BR and Reload. And the other issue too is there's sub modes underneath. You got builds and 0 builds versions and then competitive modes for each one. Like, it's a lot. You have to think about, okay, we're thinning out the well of players. The reservoir of players that we have is getting thinner and thinner and thinner the more modes we have. If you have a problem with bots, if you hate bots, you can't be for every good mode that comes to Fortnite being permanent. That's why even if a mode is successful, you cannot always keep them around forever. That's the point. That's why. Chat, listen, this has been a fantastic conversation. We can continue it, but I'm going to end the video here. Be on the lookout for my 2 new Blitz maps that are going to be dropping, hopefully both of them this Friday. Like I said, island codes will be pinned down below in the pinned comment for both builds and 0 builds. Can't wait for you guys to see those. Love y'all. Use code Clark, all that good stuff. And yeah, hopefully we'll catch you in a future live stream.